5, Chapter 4, Three of Cups. Cain looked at the time, and he frowned when he saw that Oberon was taking too long with the shower, and he knocked on the door, but he didn't get a response. He brought out a quarter from his utility belt, and he used it to pick the simple lock of the bathroom. "Hey!" yelled Oberon, annoyed when he saw the door slightly ajar. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't spend so long in the shower, especially if you have a fever." "First you tell me to shower, and now not to shower," asked Oberon, laughing. And he added, after suffering a coughing fit, "Maybe we should call Karina." "We don't need Karina. She taught me how to defeat the flu virus. I had tackled with a creature before. I can beat it again," said Cain confidently. Oberon left the shower, and he wore the clean pajama and undergarments and socks that Cain had left for him. He sat in the sofa to wait for his dinner. "Do you always sit in the couch?" asked Cain while seasoning the soup. "I sometimes eat in the lazy boy when I have guests," said Oberon, "but I prefer the couch. It is more comfortable." I have a table and a few chairs in my grandpa's storage bin," started saying Cain. It's fine, don't worry about it. I don't like having a lot of furniture because it means that I have more surfaces to clean," said Oberon, and what he really wanted to say, "I don't want your charity. I have everything I need." "Okay," said Cain, pouting. Cain continued to cook in silence, and he said that his friend was annoyed and he didn't know why. Once the soup was finished, he poured Oberon a bowl before serving himself. Oberon turned on the television and he skimmed through the local channels in search of anything to watch. When he couldn't find anything, he turned off the television. "I have some movies saved on my laptop," said Cain shyly, and he looked back at the television before adding, "I can pass you something on the television if you like." To tease Cain, Oberon asked, "Do you have anything spicy?" I'm sorry, I forgot to buy spice. I can add some lemon to your soup if you like," said Cain innocently. Oberon took a few more spoonfuls of soup, and he wasn't hungry, but he had to eat. And he then added, "I was wondering what type of porn do you have on your computer?" Cain flinched at the sound of what he considered a bad word. I don't have anything like that on my computer, but I can download something if you want. Only you need to exercise a bit of patience. It might take me a few minutes to hack into your neighbor's router," said Cain apologetically. Oberon raised an eyebrow when he saw police officer Cain talk so casually about hacking and engaging in illegal downloads. It was nice to know that Cain wasn't as perfect as he pretended to be. Cain brought out his work computer to Oberon's apartment, and Oberon watched with good amusement Cain hacking the neighbor's Wi-Fi. "What are you in the mood for, Oberon?" asked Cain, forcing a fake smile. "I'm in the mood for Latinos," joked Oberon. "Where would I look for that exactly?" asked Cain. "Reality Labs can download videos from anywhere, but I need to know where to find them exactly." "Try masizorras.com," said Oberon. "Alright, here we are," said Cain, going to the website. Scroll down, and there we are. Now that is a classic. "Put it up then," said Oberon, holding in his mirror. "We need to download it first. The internet's not strong enough for streaming," said Cain. Excuses, said Oberon, not understanding what Cain meant by streaming. Because since this is 2004, this was before, this is during the time period where, the internet either went or the Wi-Fi will only download it, at most 1 megabyte per hour. Those were the dark days of the internet. "Look, see," said Cain, booting up the movie. "Every 5 seconds, it will buffer for 5 minutes. The download of the 15-minute clip began, and after waiting for an hour, Oberon was no longer in the mood to continue teasing Cain. It took an hour to download 15 minutes of footage. "Johnny," he said, "read me one of your boring little books." "Which one do you want me to read?" asked Cain, deleting the movie in his browser history. "I don't know, I'm not much of a reader, but I'm bored and sleepy, and I find the sound of your voice rather pleasant. So read me whatever until I fall asleep," said Oberon. Cain followed Oberon to the bedchamber, and he decided to read Teresita. It was boring enough to be relaxing, but interesting enough to keep the reader engaged. And after listening to Cain's soothing voice for an hour, Oberon fell into a heavy slumber. Cain softly removed the thermometer underneath Oberon's armpit, and he sighed with relief that the fever had passed. Cain nursed Oberon for 2 more days, and he would take a break from work every 2 hours to check up on his friend. On the 3rd day, Oberon finally felt well enough to go to work, and as the damage had already been done, on Friday, Cain was informed by his uncle that he was being transferred to a different department. "Don't give me that look, son," said Cain, "and I warn you that this could happen if you kept pushing your luck." "I guess I'm going to have to search for a job tomorrow," said Cain, removing his police badge. "Stop being such a child," said Cain, taking the badge and placing it on Cain's shirt again, and he added, smiling candidly, "This is a good thing. You can't expect me to hold your hand forever. And at least in the new department, you won't have Farley breathing out your neck." Let me guess, instead of doing his job, he spent all of his time snitching to internal affairs about all the ways I am a corrupted cop and why I shouldn't be in the force, said Cain, folding his arm. "You hit the nail in the head, but the joke's on him because there are a lot of worse cops than you in my precinct. You might be lazy and unmotivated, but you're not a crook. And you also have 2 high-profile arrests under your belt, and you're good with computer. Your new boss took this into consideration when he hired you. Don't worry, son, you're in good hands." "So what do I do now?" asked Cain. "Clean up your desk and Sidanta will escort you to your new workstation," said Cain. "Can I just drive myself?" asked Cain. "Your patrol car needs to be repainted," said Cain, "and you will find it in the parking lot at your new workplace once you clock out. And I'm going to need your keys in the meantime." "Yes, Uncle Cain," said Cain meekly. Cain went to his workstation to pack his things, and since he couldn't take the work PC, he simply reformatted it to factory standard, and he erased anything that could be compromising, including his search history. And with that out of the way, he went to the parking lot to have Sidanta drive him to the new police station. "I ain't gonna miss you," lied Sidanta. Cain said nothing. "We can still see each other after work," Joe Sidanta with a slight smile painted on his face. "I am sorry Dorothy broke up with you, but that doesn't give you the right to be passive-aggressive with me," said Cain. Sidanta continued to drive in silence, and he was still peeved about being dumped, and he had gotten so enamored with the maiden that he had even bought her a wedding ring. And after a 20-minute drive, they arrived. And despite being further away, the drive took less time because the police station was right next to the expressway. It was the Buena Vista police station. Cain left the car while lugging about his things, and he breathed the salty air. He couldn't see the ocean, but he could smell that it was nearby. It's going to be fine, Cain. Just keep your head low, and it will be alright," said Cain. This was what he would tell himself every time he was going to start in a new school. And as a child, he was changed out of primary school quite often. Since he had started out life as a shy, shrimpy crybaby, he was often targeted by bullies, and he suppressed his memories to the darkest recesses of his mind. Everything would be fine as long as he did what he was told. The workday came to an end, and Cain took a deep sigh before going to his freshly painted patrol car. And he drove straight to Oberon's apartment, and he knocked on the door in order to be polite. And he had no reason to break an entry now that his friend was feeling better. Oberon looked through the peephole, and he giggled when he saw Cain standing there looking all serious. He rushed to make his bed and to hide the dirty dishes in the dishwasher he never used. And he also took a moment to change into a clean shirt, and once he felt presentable, he opened the door for his friend. Cain embraced Oberon, and Oberon blushed while his body trembled with anticipation, and Cain proceeded to cry bitterly. Oberon sighed with frustration at getting his hopes up for nothing. Oberon guided Cain to the couch to give him more comfortable spot to cry, and he offered Cain a beer. Cain took a sip before crying some more, and he placed the beer on the table. And he drew closer to embrace his friend. He was far too focused on his misery to notice Oberon's body stiffening, and Oberon was wrestling with his lust demons. And once he succeeded in temporarily conquering it, he proceeded to fraternally rub Cain's back, and after an hour he succeeded in comforting his friend. "Did you lose your job, Cain?" asked Oberon, trying to guess at the problem. "No, I got transferred, and it's all Farley's fault, and he has been trying to get rid of me ever since he started to suspect that I was batting for the other team, as he likes to call it," said Cain, sitting down on the couch. "And why would he suspect that you are gay?" asked Oberon while rubbing his knees nervously. Do you remember when we first met that I took you to the fancy restaurant? From far away, it looked like as if we were on a date, and since Farley is old-fashioned, he tried to get me fired. And when that didn't work, he had me transferred, mused Kain. Even if you like men, it doesn't mean that you're into Farley. That man has such terrible, ugly, oily, chaffy skin, and I feel sorry for the woman that has to call him husband, said Oberon before taking Kain's beautiful, dainty hand, and he added, smiling warmly, he's just jealous of your beauty and your youth. How is your new work like? Nothing out of the ordinary. I am back on patrol duty. I just drive around until crime happens in my general direction. Though during lunch break, one of my new co-workers played a prank on me, and he showed up in a Dracula cape with fake vampire teeth. And he thought he was so clever, but I didn't give him the pleasure of seeing me cry. Not that I was gonna cry, mind you. I got attacked by a man made of flesh and blood and not a real vampire, said Kain, pouting. Then why are you crying? Asked Oberon. I just miss my Uncle Gan so much, and I got used to our little chats, and it made me feel safe knowing that he was the one in charge. My new boss is just awful, complained Kain. In what way was he awful? Asked Oberon, smiling warmly, and he opened his arms again to invite Kain into a new embrace. And Kain brought the pillow and he rested his head on Oberon's lap. And Oberon proceeded to pet Kain's raven hair while listening to all of the petty complaints that his friend had about his new boss and co-workers. Oberon eventually ordered a pizza, and Kain ate it with gusto. He wasn't in a cooking type of mood. He texted his family to inform him where he was at. How was work? Tested his father, Jack. St. John, different police station, said Kain. Good, tested Jack, and he added, are you staying over at Oberon's place? I don't know, maybe, tested Kain. You can spend the night here if you want to, offered Oberon. Kain informed his father that he was sleeping over, and after dinner, Kain and Oberon went to the ball in Shane. That's a club. They invited Kanina, Bruno, and Lola, Alexia, Natasha, and Dory to hang out. And he didn't bother to ask Sidante to come and play since it was the full moon. Sidante never left his house on the night of the full moon. Dory was a freckle-faced brunette with satirical amber eyes, and her body was muscular since she was a competitive swimmer back in high school. While dancing with Dorothy, Kain asked, is Sidante really a werewolf? I wish. If it was, that would make him interesting. And I stayed over at his house on the night of the full moon and nothing happened. He acts cool, but at the very core, he's very, very boring, said Dorothy, stating a fact. Heck, Jeremy and his cat are far more amusing. And did you know that Jeremy handles all of T-Ball's dresses? No, that is so cute, said Kain, laughing. I commissioned him to make some cute dresses for my doggy, said Dorothy. And there's nothing like wearing outfits made specially for your body. Dorothy then proceeded to rant about hot culture. And after graduating, she had shown an interest in fashion design for dogs, and she was taking a sabbatical year before choosing a career. And since she was also staying close to home because her big sister Eugenia was going to give birth this summer. The night passed pleasantly enough in good company, and around 2, Kain felt sleepy, so he went back to Oberon to the apartment, and Kain showered first and he got into a pajama. And the shower, instead of helping him relax, made him reawaken. And since he was no longer sleepy, he watched with Chica da Silva with Oberon. Channel 51 always aired that show at ungodly hours. No, seriously, you have to watch that show at 3 p.m., but then eventually they moved it to not p.m., a.m., like a vampire hour, or 5 a.m. at night. But it was worth staying up late to watch the show. It was really good, because they would air the uncensored version. You got to see all this, everything. But enough about old public television back in the day. Alright, so then, yeah, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.